Hey, what's up guys? Nick the Informative Fisherman. We're gonna be doing something a little bit different today. I'm wanting to start to travel around more and more to all these little lakes that I've never fished. I'm in Bethany Reservoir right now. This is just outside of the San Francisco Bay area. It's a smaller lake. You can still put a big boat in here. Right now we're in late April. I've got about, I would say, 2 foot of visibility at this lake. Big front moved in yesterday. It was raining really hard. So we're post frontal. April, 61 degrees. There could be fish moving up to bed, which is about 4 or 5 days out from the next big moon. But usually when a front comes in, during the spawning time, they tend to pull off and get a little bit finicky. I brought a full set of sticks with me, the 1 through 6 setup, and I'm gonna go over the rigs that I'm gonna be try to cover some water fast out here and try to locate some bass. My goal today is to catch a limit. I have never heard anything spectacular about this lake. I'm just stopping at a variety of them to try it out, so jump on board with me. Let's go over some rigs and let's hopefully catch a few fish. All right guys, so I just rigged up all 6 of my sticks for looking at the conditions around here. I'm looking at the shoreline. I thought it was going to be crankable from looking at the map and seeing a lot of rocks, but this is the delta floods into this lake, so it looks like it has a lot of Brazilian elodea, which is like a thicker type of plant coming up to the surface. So on my number 1, the finesse stick, the lightest one in the setup, the 7'6" medium light, I have a wacky drop shot setup. It's about an 8-inch dropper to a size 4 mosquito hook with a 6-inch trick worm in watermelon red flake. The next spinning rod up, which is a little bit heavier of a power. It's not a heavy, it's just a little bit heavier than the finesse stick and a little bit shorter to throw your bigger plastics or your smaller hard baits. I have a 1.0 weed guarded wacky hook from Mustad with a 6-inch green pumpkin Senko on there. The next one up is the hybrid casting rod. It's the first bait casting lineup, first bait caster in the lineup. It's a medium power. I have an underspin on there with a Kitech. The reason why I did the underspin, it's a little overcast, the water's a little bit stained, so those blades kind of help draw fish up, and it's also weed guarded. I went with the weed guard because I see a lot of vegetation here. On my reaction stick, I have 15-pound fluorocarbon. I didn't mention on my underspin that I have 12. And on my hybrid spin, I have 8 for that Senko. Now, coming back up to my reaction stick, I have a chatterbait on there, a dark green one with a black blade and 15-pound fluorocarbon on that. That's just to get in and around this heavy cover and give more vibration in case they're not finding my more subtle presentations. And since I've seen a lot of matted vegetation, up on the surface stick, I have 65-pound braid to a black sexy frog. It's like 65 size. Then I have my power stick with a big glide bait. I'm not sure if the big glide bait's gonna get any love. The water's a little bit stained here, so chances are it may not. I know there's probably stripers in here too, although that's not my goal. But sometimes that big bait needs to be thrown just to see if you can get a reaction from a bigger fish. Sometimes they'll ignore all the small stuff. I'm gonna try it a few times, but I might switch that with a jig or maybe a punching setup and flip into some heavier matted vegetation throughout the day. So let's get out there and start breaking it down. All right guys, so first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the lay of the land. It's not on the lake mapping here on my graph, so I don't know the depth. I'm looking at these long fingers and bays and cuts, okay? So now normally in the pre-spawn, these fish would be sitting out on these points getting ready to transition into these back bays. The launch ramp's right here where we're sitting currently. So what I'm going to do is look for pre-spawn and potential spawning fish. So I'm going to start at each point, work my way in, and I want to cover the water fast. I don't want to slow down and fish the finesse stuff too quick while we have good overcast skies. I'm probably in this long finger right here. I'm probably going to start up here because there's these little secondary bays leading into this little spawning bay back here. These are all potential spawning bays. This could be a big flat over there. I'm going to look around for shallow water on the graph and then start picking these apart. But I'm going to start from pre-spawn areas, maybe right in here could be a pre-spawn area to go into this flat, and maybe back down here. So we're going to check around pre-spawn and spawning areas. So let's get to go. All right guys, so I came out from the boat ramp and I just cut a hard right and going right into the back of this cove, but right away I'm facing a little headwind right here. Now I don't know if this is wind current or current coming out of the canal right here, but right away I'm getting the clue that I was sitting in 26 feet of water. There's a lot of current pushing up here, and if these are pre-spawn and spawning fish, chances are they're not going to want to be in this current. So I'm going to push up a little farther in. Instead of spinning my wheels, look for calmer pocket water. I'm trying to look for an average depth of about 6 feet or less. So right away, I see that it's deep here and nice cover and structure up along there, a nice deep rock wall, which would be great in the winter or great during the summer, but right now it doesn't look prime. Although this is a staging area into a flatter area, it just doesn't have what I'm looking for. All right, guys, we covered a whole bay right here at the mouth of the aqueduct without a bite, so we're going to move over to the very, very back of the next one over, and then we're going to start moving our way back towards the, I believe it would be the south end of the lake. I frogged and threw a chatterbait on the cove to the eastern side of what would be the aqueduct, was what I'm referring to. And now, with no bites or no love over there, I jumped over to the western cove, to the western side of the aqueduct. And now, even though I did pick up a finesse rig, I got a weightless wacky Senko on here, and the wind's starting to blow over here, so I might need to put a nail weight in this or abandon the weightless worm. I'm throwing it into what would be potential spawning pockets or out farther in this LOD if they pulled off from the front yesterday and moved out in it. So I'm throwing to open pockets in the LOD, which is that matted vegetation, and then throwing up to what would be potential spawning pockets. Throwing a weightless worm in there, if you watch some of my other episodes, is a great way to get a big female to trigger immediately. Something weighted on the bottom is going to get a defensive male to trigger. But I'm still covering water fast. I'm not spending a lot of time. I cast it in there, count to about 3 or 4, get it out, and move on. I'm still wanting to cover as much water as fast as possible with a limited amount of time. All right, the lake does have some legit punching vegetation. I didn't bring a true punching setup. I could try to flip this on half-ounce stuff and probably get it in here. Something from the round leaf, yellow leaf, primrose family. It's not pennywort, it's not hyacinth. It's definitely a round leaf. Ooh, we got duckweed intermixed here. This looks juicy. I think I'm gonna have to bust out the frog. So I just covered 2 really premium looking pockets. I'm in a much shallower bay here, 4 foot of depth on average. Through the frog, through the chatterbait, through the underspin, through some grass lanes, through the weightless wacky Senko, and I only felt like I got 1 bite, and it felt like a very small fish. So in this circumstance right here, instead of spinning my wheels around the same area where everything looks relatively good, it's best to make a bigger jump. So now, instead of going halfway down the lake, reality is I should probably go all the way down and look for a bigger change, look for different water clarity, or look for a larger temperature change. So that's what we're going to do now. All right, guys, now we're all the way down on the southeastern end of the lake, and right away, 150, 200 foot off the bank, I could see that Elodia coming up just under the surface, which means this is a much slower taper, and it's really large. So more than likely, this is a premium spawning area. It's a lot of water to cover, and it's really windy, so I'm probably going to get past this first row of Elodia out here. I could see it down in here. And look for casting lanes to throw a chatterbait or a reaction bait that's not going to get hung up in all this weedy material out here, and try to cover some potential spawning and pre-spawning areas as fast as I can. And then once we get in through these flats, we're going to go back in from each one of those points and check the back of those coves. Hopefully we can find some fish here, but so far not so good. I had a little one roll on my frog, and that was our only sign. And we're all the way to the base of the lake here. And then I just had one, probably 2.5, 3 pounds, grabbed my frog, hooked him, rolled once, and he came off. But it's a good sign. We're probably in a foot of water, just sitting. My motor's tangled up in tons of weeds, but it's a good sign. Got a bite like that, and around the snot, wherever there's snotty matted vegetation on the surface, seems to be like what they're preferring to be around at the moment. Well, 2 fish prefer to be around it, so that's one clue we need to hang on to. Uh-oh, we're in trouble. He's on the cable. He's on the cable. Powering my way through the vegetation to my first fish that I hooked over the buoy line in the cheese. He's still hanging here. I'm gonna let him sit there in the water. I think, yeah, he's still on there. Oh, little guy. But he counts. Is he still on there or did he come off? He came off.
No.
Junior came off. Fish was about 10 inches that I had on the frog. One around the cable here. Didn't want to come back, but that's 2 connections in the cheese. Now I have a clue that there is frog bass to be caught on the snot. All right, guys, so we just finished fishing the flats over here. Had 1 fish swirl, had 2 fish on, lost both of them. That last little one got stuck around the cable. Not a keeper anyways. But I got a clue. They're not tight to the bank so far over here on this end. They're a few feet off, but they're where the snotted matted vegetation is and the tules are, where they meet together. Tules and snot, all 3 signs that I got came off of that. So now I'm gonna go into the long fingers and see if we have any tules and see if any snot, or if I can replicate it, or look for another bite, look for another pattern going on, and come back in a couple hours on those fish and flip into that same stuff and hopefully capitalize on a few catches. You just have to take every clue you can acquire when coming to a new body of water. I had no idea this lake had punching style vegetation, like actual weeds on top. Glide bait's not gonna work here, a little dirty, and the fish aren't aggressive in the post front. So instead of actually bringing one of my power sticks with a punching reel on it, I have 20-pound fluorocarbon, a punch weight, no bobber stops with me, a bead, flipping hook, creature bait. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a bobber stop with braided line, but I need to put the bead above my punch setup to where the bead will get stopped on the braided line or caught in there to create a fixed point to stop that weight from getting away and not dragging my creature bait through. So let's try to rig something up here. All right, guys, so I took about 12 inches of braid, and just like you're gonna do a uni to uni knot to create a leader, I just took my line right here and I took that braid and tied a uni knot and then trimmed off the tag ends after securing it real tight, slid it up to my bead, did a second one. I'm gonna slide that down to my bead, and that should hold that punch weight in front. You know, this is a makeshift way of doing it, but it does work. We're gonna see how well it works, but just doing that uni knot with the braid, trimming the tag ends off right there. It's definitely ugly, but if you run out of bobber stops or toothpicks to peg your weight, there's a solution. The hole in the tungsten was too big, so I used the bead. That's why the bead's in front, for those knots to get caught in the bead and then it to stop that weight. So had to think outside the box, and if I had to do all that and not get a punch bite, it's gonna suck. But if you don't try a variety of things that instinct, having bass fishing knowledge is telling you to try, that's on you if you don't catch them.
What's wrong, Nick? Is that stuff like Berber carpet?
Berber carpet?
Berber carpet, yeah.
Berber? If I ever knew what Berber carpet, I'm assuming yes.
Yeah, it's a tightly wound carpet. Kind of like that mat right there in front of you.
I probably need the 1.5 ounce or 2 ounce here, but this is a 1 ounce. Definitely not cutting the mustard. That one went through. Trying to find the more sparse openings in it to get it through there, because that thick green stuff's really hard to punch. Just looking for that slightly lighter gap in it and try to creep through it. All right, guys, you can see the commotion, the bubble trails going on in the water over here. What this more than likely means is this is carp spawning up here. It's hard to see into the water. I've seen this lots of times with the big bubble trails, big mud lines. When the carp are back spawning, they're very aggressive, and the bass don't like to spawn around them. That's probably why I got no bite. Yeah, I see one's tail sticking out of the surface right over there by that rock. Coming around the corner that leads back out to the lake, it's just on the inside of a main lake point that leads into a bay. And throwing the white frog up there, just had another little 1 pound male come up and take a shot at my frog, but miss it. But the interesting part is he was out here near the point on the main lake, and I have a feeling these fish are just about to start spawning at this lake. And I think the cold front may have moved them back. That was a fish in a different position than the previous clue I acquired. The only problem is I'm dealing with a lot of yardage leading up to these banks. So I can't easily come up and throw a reaction bait because I'm dealing with minimal. This is the shortest I've had, 35 feet maybe of solid vegetation. So I can only pitch up into the gap. So the frog, the punch, and probably the weedless, weightless Senko or a nail-weighted weedless Senko pitching up into these holes is going to be my best bet. But I have so much crosswind right here, it is very difficult to control my cast and get it into this trough. But so far this lake's fishing very similar to the Delta with very similar looking Elodia and the banks and troughs. So I'm starting to get some clues together. That's 4 bites I had, 2 fish I hooked, and have 0 in the boat so far. But I'm getting clues, and as long as I'm getting clues, I'll put together a pattern. Who knows if they'll be big or not. All right, guys. So we missed that bite in a cove over within about the first 50 feet leading in off the main lake point, and we came over to the next cove to see if we can repeat it. The exact same thing just happened. Just had a little one blow up on the frog while it was hanging over the tree and just miss. But it was a repeatable pattern, which is interesting. It's so windy, I tried to throw a Senko in there. My line's just getting yanked around. It's buried into the heavy stuff. I would honestly suggest having at least a 100-pound trolling motor when you're here. It's a very windy place, and there's so much matted vegetation that your trolling motor is going to need to push through it. You're going to have some strong batteries, because I've had to clear the trolling motor probably 30 or 40 times already just to get in nice and tight to the casting range that I need to make, you know. So be prepared to deal with some heavy vegetation, and it seems like a place that's, you know, frog is probably going to be your deal, punch is going to be your deal, or something heavy weedless. But so far it's presenting to be a fun challenge. I'm getting some clues. I had some fish bite, just haven't boated them. But starting to get the clues together, and my confidence is going up, and that's what it takes. Yeah. There it is. Boated the first monster of the day. That is, how many inches are you? Oh, 11 inches. Not a keeper, but got one in the boat on the frog. Second fish, I also don't think this is a keeper. Now I'm fishing the frog to cover this water fast, and the frog is usually a notorious big fish bait, but let's see, let's compare on my surface stick here. Oh, 12 and just under a quarter, 12. He's a keeper! Yeah, that's a better one. She's buried in it. He's coming in with the thickness. Ugh, get in here. Is there someone home in this salad bar? I think there is. Calm down, calm down, calm down. Calm down. I know. Here we go. Ain't big, but I'm working for him. Keeper number 2, little 13-inch fish for sure. Working my butt off, having to put together some clues. Fascinating thing I was realizing is the boat, realistically, if it's sitting in 3 feet, you get bit. Or just coming back into these coves halfway. Once we really get below that 3 foot of water, it seems like the carp are just up there spawning, just too aggressive. And it seems like the bass here are very aware of the carp spawn and choose to spawn on the transitions leading back to the bays. That big flat this morning was so big that we did find bass on it. But in regards to the coves in between the main lake points, it's the transitional areas that these fish are clearly coming up staging to bed. Now granted, I didn't see any on beds today. I did see some empty beds, but I could see they've been up there building. They're not on them, they pulled off, so I'm just looking for some aggressive fish that pulled off or some staging fish that are just starting to come up, some pre-spawners. And the interesting part is I think they're choosing to spawn in the pre-spawn zones because of the carp. So kind of a neat clue. It's working. Uh-oh. Nick got a pattern. Uh-oh. Another keeper. Now, if I could just figure out where the big ones are in the mix, could be Van Damage time. We shall see.
Hang with us, guys. We'll be right back.
Absolutely smoked that thing. Look at that Spotopotamus, man.
Big one, real big one.
Yeah, God, choked it, dude, choked it. Look at that. Yeah, I want that headbang. Come on. Hey guys, Nick the Informative Fisherman here, and when it comes to my hooks, I demand superior craftsmanship, innovative design, and proven success. And that's why I've chose to partner with Mustad Fishing Hooks. With over 180 years in the business, you can't go wrong. So if you don't want to risk losing a big one, I suggest you do the right thing.
Bigger, better, badder. The evolution of the buzzbait is upon us. The Evolution Baits Grass Burner is a high-performance bass snatcher machine. High-end components, inline displacement, larger profile, balanced body for fast or slower retrieves, better deflection, and oversized treble hooks. You wouldn't bring a slingshot to a gunfight, would you? Find out more at evolutionbaits.com. Attention Northern California anglers, have you been to Boat Country in Ripon? With one of the largest selections of aluminum boats in the valley, from North River, Hughescraft, and Crestliner, chances are they have the right boat for you. And they also have a full-on service center to take care of all your maintenance or repair needs. If you're a boat owner or just looking to become one, you owe it to yourself to check these guys out. Visit BoatCountryUSA.com or stop on by. We'll see you there.
So if you guys see what I'm doing here, I'm working the inside trough around the rocks and around the trees. As I'm coming back to the boat too, you'll see gaps in the grass. I'm not sure if the camera can make that out, but there's gaps in the LOD, little pockets. So what I'm doing is I'll run it, and you can see a pocket I'm coming up to. I'll reel fast, then I'll hesitate at the pocket, and I'll walk, and I'll stop one time, and then I'll burn it back out of that pocket. They feel it, they hear it coming, but you don't want them to blow up through the thick stuff. You want them to come and get it through the more sparse areas or the open areas. If it was less windy, I would be throwing a popper into each one of these pockets, but since the wind's blowing my line so much, I can't really do that. The frog's the preference, but if I would have been able to use a popper in the same situations that I got the bites on the frog today, I probably would have boated 6 or 7 so far instead of the 3 keepers. Oh, another, oh my God. Net! Net!
Ah,
Wow, no net. Okay. Yeah, this guy ain't going 12 inches. What was that? Number 4 I boated? I mean, it's about your average size right here. It's an absolute beauty. It's a stud. It's a big old largemouth bass. Came up and ate that big old frog. Ambitions of a rider. This is the spot about 2.5, 3 hours ago that we missed the first 3 bites. Well, I hooked that one and he got stuck on the cable. But it's here, there, and there. So we're gonna try to repeat. Now with the white frog, you probably noticed that I switched over. They seem to be getting the white frog better. It could be a time of deal. It could be a time of day deal. It could just be a time of deal. But it seems like the hookup is better on the white frog. We're having intermittent cloud. If it's dark out, I usually just go with the dark frog. Or if there's a lot of blackbirds around the area, I'll go with the dark frog. Or if the water's really dirty, the dark frog. And if the water's a little bit cleaner, or it's bright and sunny out, I usually go with the white frog. But another contrary to that is exactly what I'm doing right now, is if I find them hitting and missing one color a lot, I'll make a drastic change. And usually, that drastic change helps. Another monster. Dude, look at, you tell me you didn't want to eat that frog in the worst way. When I'm finding these bass here, they're aggressive. It just seems like there's not a giant population of them. I did fish the whole entire dam, and it looked like one, maybe 2.5, 3 pounds came up and just annihilated my frog, but he knocked it straight out of the air, so it must have bounced off his nose. And then I lost another one on a Senko, but that was another small one. So the dam, we covered a big area for little return, but so far on our return to the spots that have been producing, 1 for 1. Slightly different look. We know there was a fish on it earlier. So much higher percentage odd considering the majority of the lake we didn't get a bite, but we know there's fish in this general area. So now coming back over here, I know I can slow down a lot and just really thoroughly pick this part apart with every cast and just work my frog a lot slower than I originally did. When I first came through here, I was working it fast. Strictly trying to find fish. I can't go super slow and cover a whole entire lake in a day. I gotta burn water, stay on the trolling motor, cover until I find fish. But now that I have them clued in, I can go back and just be super methodical with the frog, hit every little pocket real slow. I gave it time to settle the areas that I caught fish on the frog, so I know those are higher percentage areas. Coming back through with the wacky Senko now, throwing it just on the other side of the weed line. My dad behind the camera there was faddling with his phone, and I missed a bite, threw back in, hooked up, lost one about 1.5 pounds, maybe just another small fish. But we're going back through those zones, thoroughly picking it apart. Using something like a wacky rig Senko can be deadly. So hopefully we're gonna get a few more in here and see if we can get a bigger one. That's the name of the game. The big ones definitely did not want the frog, which is kind of odd to me, but I got him. Here we go. Yeah. So that is the culprit. This guy right here. This lake seems to be full of. I'm pretty sure I caught that same dude on a frog an hour ago. Boy, howdy. They're getting bigger. Oh my gosh. You know, I really, I take back my statement about the frog getting the small ones. I'm pretty positive the frog was getting big ones now. Yep. That's a better one. Come on, come out, come out, come out. Did it come off? No, it's still in there. It's down in the thick crap. We got us a better fish? Yeah, we do. Bethany's got a decent bass in it, folks. Oh yeah, look at her, look at her. That's a legit one. We got us a legit fish. Oh, yeah. Boom, baby. Now, I'll tell you what, guys. If I wasn't running water like crazy earlier and trying to dial together a pattern, there'd really be no way I'd be able to go stick this big giant. If I would have slowed down, fished the Senko earlier in the day, whew, there's no way. I would have covered a very little amount of water. Maybe I would have got one big bite, but I wouldn't have located the fish to come back and retarget them thoroughly. Is it on there, or is that all grass? I think there's a fish in that. Oh my gosh, new record. I didn't think I was gonna be able to up that big one that I just boated, but wow, I did. Oh, criminy. That hurts the forearm just trying to hold him out like that. Oh my goodness, let's better put him back in. Woo! Oh my gosh, finally. You'd think a 6-pounder like this would wallow himself out sooner. But nope. I'll take him though. I will take him. Well, we've definitely established a limit. Established a pattern. lost my Senko, but ended up being a pretty decent day out here. Got to come out to a new pond, play around, caught one big one, caught quite a few little ones, established a pattern. It was definitely not a here, take it, Nick, and whack 'em day. It was cool. Post frontal. I don't think I could have asked for much more. You know, it's a small lake. I think it gets a lot of pressure. Caught some fish, had a good time, learned a new system. Appreciate you guys watching. InformativeFisherman.com. Follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook under Informative Fisherman. Later, guys. Best fishing.